Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies coming at you with more Space Marine goodness. You guys have been enjoying the Space Marine series so far, where I delve into the background of the Space Marines, pick an awesome chapter, show you guys how to get it painted up, and then also inform you a little bit about their background and lore. I've been asking you guys at the end of each video what chapters you would like to see, and I now have a full list of chapters that I need to basically flesh out and do videos for and learn. Some I've never even heard of myself, which is kind of crazy. The Yellow Jackets, for instance. I keep going back to that one because it's such a bizarre name. But in today's video, I'm going to go off the rails just a teeny tiny bit because there's been something stuck in my head for a little while and I want to try it out. I've been using an orange and black scheme now for the last couple of weeks over in my old world section of the studio for a Dogs of War army. And I've basically been using that same scheme on a bunch of different units, whether it be a cannon crew or a Kislevite horse, or whether it be a Birdmen of Katraza, all these different models with all these different kind of aesthetics. And I want them all to look like a unified force, hence the orange and black scheme. And that scheme so far has been working on absolutely everything. And I was curious as to whether this scheme would work on absolutely everything. And I thought the next thing to test it out on was, of course, a Space Marine. So that's what I'm going to do in today's video. I'm going to paint up a Space Marine in the same orange and black scheme, same color, same paints that I've been doing over there, testing it out, and perhaps even coming up with a little bit of a story for them in my head. Let's see how that goes. Before I go into it, big thank you to all my patrons. You guys are amazing. Without you, could not continue doing what I'm doing. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. If you're interested in getting involved with that yourself, linked down in the description below. A bunch of benefits for you guys to check out. I think it's definitely worth your time. Okay, without further ado, let's dive in and get this Space Marine painted. So this is of course a Space Marine that I have chosen. As per usual, I love using Assault Intercessors to do painting tutorials and lessons because obviously the open pose means that it's a lot easier to get at things like his chest. And I just think they're really awesome looking miniatures. So, like I said, this is my orange and black scheme that I have been using for my Dogs of War army for the old world, and I have been besotted by this color scheme. Orange is of course my favorite color, so I may be slightly biased in this one, but we don't need to talk about that. And the concept that I had is a orange and black quartered scheme. So top right and bottom left is orange, bottom right and top left it will be black. And we're going through with my traditional scheme of using contrasts, orange and black to get all the base coats on, bit of silver, wash the whole thing with something like Reikland Flesh Shade, nice warm tone, and then layering up with the two thin coats range of paints. We'll go through that a little bit more as we go on. So obviously, with all the other Space Marine videos that I have been creating, I've been giving you guys a little bit of background information and lore on these. Now, since these Space Marines are pulled directly out of my brain, I decided I would write a very, very tiny bit of lore just to kind of get the creative juices flowing, kind of help me along the way decide where they are from and what they are doing. And maybe if I enjoy them and I decide to do some more, I can flesh out this idea. So, first of all, their name. They're called the Sentinels of the Hallowed Star. So the Hallowed Star does indeed exist in the 40k lore. It is a region of space that is near the Ultramar sector. And in actual lore, this isn't something that I have made up. Chief Librarian Tigerius had gotten an ominous warning from that star system, and the Ultramarines did indeed decide to purge the entire thing. So they went on a large crusade and wiped everything out of the Hallowed Star because it was so dangerous. There's not really any information on what they purged, how strong it was. All we know is that they did take significant casualties doing it. So obviously what was there, I don't know, maybe it was a remnants of the Rangdan, or I don't know, the Maggot Men or something terrifying, maybe some last kind of vestiges of those. So after that crusade, they left pretty much untouched for quite a long period of time. That's where my story comes in. During the kind of creation of the Primaris Space Marines and all the new chapters getting set up, it was deemed necessary by the kind of Council of Ultramar that a new Space Marine chapter be created with its sole purpose being the guarding of the Hallowed Star region of space, as there has been increased kind of conflict around that space, many ships going missing, scouting parties disappearing, and worlds being attacked by an unknown enemy. So that's where the Sentinels of the Hallowed Star come into play. It is their sole purpose to guard that particular star space and indeed to keep obviously enemies from coming out and anyone being nosy going in, which has led to some conflict between them and forces like the Inquisition and the Rogue Traders. Something which, when they approached Lord Guilliman asking for the reason why they weren't allowed in that period of space, they were told basically to go away. So Guilliman has obviously been apprised of what's going on in the Hallowed Star system. He understands the creation of this Space Marine chapter, what its purpose is, and he has decided that it is not a piece of information that the wider Imperium needs to know about, lest it cause some form of panic. So Hallowed Stars are pretty gnarly. They share a lot of similar actions to the Death Spectres, who of course guard the Ghoul Stars from a very similar threat. So perhaps that these guys and the Death Spectres can have some sort of kinship of helping each other out and maybe training each other on how to best defend an entire star system. Maybe it's the same enemy. Maybe the Death Spectres and the Sentinels of the Hallowed Star are literally trying to keep the same enemy, two different forces of it at bay from two different sides of the galaxy, which would be pretty awesome as well. So that is the little piece of information that I have on the Sentinels of the Hallowed Star. I would love to flesh it out even more, kind of going into what makes up the force. What are their kind of primary units? Are they a fleet-based chapter or are they based on a world? So far I'm thinking a fleet-based chapter would make the most sense as they are constantly patrolling. What do you guys think? How do you think we could flesh out this story? What do you think their primary units would be? Do you think they suffer a lot of casualties fighting whatever it is that they're fighting? Or do you have any ideas on what you think the enemy should be? Do you think it should remain this kind of unsaid thing, letting people's imaginations run wild? Or do you think it should be, you know, the Rangdan? Oh my god, the Rangdan are there in small force, we need to deal with them. Or I don't know. For anyone who's curious about the Rangdan, these was a force of aliens that they encountered during the Great Crusade. So when the Great Crusade did indeed venture back out into the stars, it swept aside pretty much all that stood before it. No enemy force, except maybe all the orcs put together, proved a particularly dangerous threat on Ullanor, and it took a couple of chapters of Space Marines to quell, including the Emperor himself. But most other enemies were literally just no match for the might of an expeditionary fleet. Whereas the Rangdan are a force all unto themselves. During the campaign in which they were kind of sent to be destroyed, almost half the Dark Angels were wiped out and a huge portion of the Iron Warriors as well. These guys are no joke. Being able to manipulate time in quite a terrifying way. So if these guys were still present in the 41st millennium, there would definitely be lots of resources dedicated to eradicating them. And if not able to eradicate them, at least stop them from encroaching on the Imperial space. Okay, as you can see with the painting of these guys, we are leaning very much into the orange and black aesthetic. I've jumped over to the Two Thin Coats range of paints for all the highlights, as it's what I've been doing with my Dogs of War, and I wanted to see that tone going on. So the fiery orange and phallic orange, obviously using to highlight the orange, following the panels, not going in too close to the lines and keeping that nice warm tone in the shadows with the Reichel and Flesh shade over the contrast orange, which I think works a treat. And then of course the Death Reaper and Dungeonstone Grey to quarter up the black parts of it. Very nice, very enjoyable kind of steps. Obviously when the result is turning out nice and you're enjoying it, that tends to be something that drives you forward. It's not a quick scheme though. I wouldn't put this on as something that I could, you know, bash out 50 Space Marines in a month in this game. No. It would definitely be a very slow grow thing if I ever decided to do a larger force of the Sentinels of the Hallowed Star, although it may be something that I do. Maybe starting off with a boarding actions force, 500 points, riding that up and getting that painted up might be particularly cool. I like the idea that the successors of the Ultramarines, obviously having 500 worlds to guard. I know it's not 500 worlds currently, but maybe with the help of the Primaris Marines they can retake all the planets that they lost and regain control of all 500 worlds. They have many Space Marine successor chapters that fight alongside them in that region of space, so it is very easy to write in a lore of Space Marines for these guys. So here is the orange and the black all layered up. I know the black is a touch too grey, but I like it. I know I only say that because it's hard to say that it's orange and black. It's more orange and grey, but I think it works. We're going to pull back in with the lead belcher and re-highlight all of the metallics, which is just the silver across his chest, the blade of the sword and the thing. At one point in the painting process, I was very tempted to like yin and yang it and paint the chest eagle orange and black, but the opposite way. So obviously the orange bit would go up into the grey and the black bit would go up into the orange, and I think that would be really cool. But in the end, I decided that would just be a little bit too much. The silver is a great way of breaking up that scheme. When I painted the silver on all the weapons, I did indeed paint in his eye lenses in silver as well. This gives me a great base coat to throw a little bit of Talazar blue in to give him the kind of glowing blue eye lens. And then after that, it was time to add some transfers. So I just grabbed some random transfers, a tactical symbol, a really, really cool chapter symbol, which I took off of the, I think the Cadian or the new Astromilitarum vehicle upgrade sprue or transfer sheet. It's really nice. I wish I had a whole heap more of them. I think it's a really gnarly kind of scheme for them. And I drew some chevrons kind of going up the combat blade as well. I was tempted to add a little bit of rusting or some chipping with some silver across the armor, but I decided not to. I really like how it looked and I didn't want to mess with it. After that, we are going to go into a couple of still images to give you guys an idea of what he would look like on the tabletop. And yeah, like I said, I think this scheme, the orange and the black, works so well. And my brain just keeps wanting to see what it would look like on other units and different things. And perhaps I will power through and try this scheme on a bunch of other units. Do you think this would look good on anything else specific? Tau, maybe? I don't know, what else? Tyranid scheme? Just let me know. If you'd like me to try it on anything else, I'd be more than happy to test the waters and see what happens. But for me, the Sentinels of the Hallowed Star are now in existence. I love them. And maybe there'll be some more in the future. Okay guys, we have our first Guardian of the Hallowed Stars finished up and ready for the tabletop. I think it worked out really well. This orange and black scheme once again is continuing to prove that it can be painted on pretty much anything and look awesome. Let me know what you guys think about this Space Marine chapter. Do you think it's cool? Do you think it has a little bit of a cool story? Would you be curious to try one out for yourself? And as usual, make sure you let me know which other chapters you want to see down below and I will be very much adding them to the list and painting them up very soon. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like. Make sure you ask me any questions and comments below. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on all future uploads. And thank you so much for sticking around to the end. I'll see you in the next one.